So I'm halfway through cutting the grass and I've realised, don't know why I haven't realised it before, that I like to trim around the edges first. Now I don't know why that is, answers on a postcard please, but I'm going to ponder that and see if I can come up with the answer. So it's just after 5 and I got back a little while ago from having a catch up with a couple of friends and a nice lunch in Oakham. I'm still at that stage with vlogging because it's so new. I'm not quite comfortable yet with asking friends and colleagues that I see if they'd mind me filming part of our catch up or discussion or chat or whatever, so that I can sort of include it in the vlog. I haven't quite got to that stage of comfortableness yet. But I just had a car pass me and I twisted my neck because I heard a car coming up. So I looked behind me and just felt my neck crick, and I just wanted to share something with you. I've got a problem with my neck at the moment. I've had a problem for a number of months now, and I had an MRI about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, and the results are in. It's not great news because I've got some overgrowth in some of the bones in the neck part of my spine, which basically means that there's that the space that the nerves move through is slightly smaller than it should be. So my understanding is that the signals don't get sent quite the same way. So there's an element of stiffness in part of my neck, and then slightly above that the nerve is working a little bit harder, a little bit more strongly than it should, so there's an element of pain in that part. So I'm working with a physiotherapist to look at how we can manipulate, strengthen, support the soft tissue to actually try and either ease the situation or at least prevent it getting a little bit worse. And it's occurred to me as I've been cycling, I get lots of thoughts when I'm cycling. It's really great actually if you want that time to yourself to actually think. But there's a really good book, and it's called The Secret Language of Your Body, and it's by Inna Segal. And it's fantastic, and it talks about all different aspects of illness and aspects of the body, and how they have an emotional or a mental or an energetic influence. And I'm a great believer through a lot of the energetic work that I've done, and I really do believe that there are spiritual, energetic, emotional and mental aspects are all intertwined, and there isn't a separateness between each of them, and that sometimes, you know, if we have a thought or behaviour or something that we're not dealing with, that over a period of time it does have the potential to manifest itself physically in the body. And interestingly, the other day when I was looking through this for the neck joints, there's an aspect of all of those bits and pieces that actually really resonates. Not everything's 100%, but in each of the joints where there's a slight issue, there are a couple of words that just jump out at me in all of them, and I think, yeah, actually I can understand that. So as well as actually having some physio at the moment, what I'm doing is working on those words and the beliefs that they hold and the emotions that relate to them, to try and actually look at clearing those, looking at where they originate from, where the root causes are, and to try and deal with those beliefs, and then to try and deal also with the emotions that arise from them. And it's not that it can automatically clear the problem that I have with my neck. Only somebody going in and actually chopping off the overgrown bits would do that. But what it can do, if that's contributing to it, dealing with those issues within myself, dealing with the things and the beliefs and the emotions that are probably challenging those aspects, what it can do is it might help to prevent anything getting worse. So I don't know if that's of use to you, but it's a book called The Secret Language of the Body. It's by Inna Segal. There's loads of stuff in it, and what I would say to you if you look at anything like that is, if something resonates and it makes sense to you, then absolutely have a look at it, take it on board. And if it doesn't resonate, don't worry about it, chuck it out the window. But there's a great sense of synchronicity. The more we know about life and the more we know about ourselves, the more undeniable I think it becomes that there must be a connection between the mind, the body and the spirit. Come out for a cycle because I had a bit of a headache and couldn't seem to shift it, so I came out to get some fresh air and just to move everything around, to move the energy around. Something's occurred to me, and something's quite important actually in my view, and it's only my opinion, but one of the mistakes that people make is for those people who are walking a recognised or acknowledged or purposeful spiritual path, is to think that those people who are not walking a recognised in brackets spiritual path are not walking a spiritual path. We're all walking a spiritual path. We come from spirit, we live through spirit here, we live through our own spirits, and we go back to spirit. So, we're all walking a spiritual path, but there's a million different ways that we all do it. Stopped by a park and cricket ground because I pushed myself a little bit hard today actually. Just something got me wired this morning, and saw something on social media, as you do, talking about some people not being spiritual, and it just fired me up. We are all spiritual. How can we not be? And the fact that somebody isn't working with spirit or serving in spirit or whatever, or the greater good in some way, doesn't mean they're not spiritual. Bringing up your child to be the best they can be is spiritual. Being a teacher in a school is spiritual. Cutting grass is everything spiritual, and it just bugs me sometimes. But you've probably gathered that. But there are two things that help me get rid of stuff that bother me, and one is doing some physical exercise to actually get that out of my system, and the other thing is using my voice. And I remember an incident when I was about 7 or 8 and was part of a choir, and I was never the greatest singer. I'm not the greatest singer now. But I think we were at Nottingham. It was something when I was at primary school, and anyway, I had a bit of a solo bit, and most of the kids did. And when it was my turn to actually be solo, I opened my mouth and nothing came out. So I was just stood there on this stage in this great big auditorium with all these hundreds or thousands of other school kids and schools looking at me, and nothing came out. And I wasn't consciously aware of that, I don't think, for many years. And when I started to work on my voice, memories started to come back, as they do when you start to work on something. The source of the problem starts to make itself known to you, doesn't it? But I really started to understand the power of my voice when I did sound work. And when I did sound healing and using the voice to actually move energy within us. And I remember running a retreat, I think it was 2 years ago now, and it was a really heavy year. The energy that year had been really heavy. And on the Saturday we'd been doing some clearing work. And on the Saturday evening, to really move energy, I got everyone to use their voice. And I remember some people going outside and actually shouting and screaming and really going down into their solar plexus and their base chakra, and using all of those sounds and those primal sounds that we're capable of, and those primal sounds that we use sometimes, when we're in a great deal of pain and we think nobody's listening, using those to actually move that physical energy from us. And so sound is, and how we use our voices and resonating with our voices is really important. If you work with affirmations, you can tell whether an affirmation is right for you if you say it physically. If you say it in your head, it's one thing, but if you actually say the words, you can tell whether you believe it, whether you resonate with it. And if you don't resonate with it, you have to change it, because if you don't resonate with something that you're saying, you're never going to believe it. So you have to choose the words that are right for you, words that resonate with meaning, so that as you say it, it actually has an effect on your physical energy. So I thought I'd just stop and bring you on a little bit of a tour, part of the village that I live in. And this is a local church. Some of the gravestones are quite old actually, which I suppose you get in a lot of these village churches, don't you? I'm not a hugely religious person at all, but there's something about churches that I really enjoy, and I love going to look at cathedrals. There's something about the workmanship and the architecture that's quite amazing, really, and the dedication that's been part of bringing that building to life. But invariably, there's part of a church, and it's usually a small room, and it's usually where they have a regular prayer service or a quiet place where you can go to prayers. And there's a couple of places particularly that I've been in where one of them is Bury St Edmunds, the other one is Lincoln Cathedral, and there's somewhere else, I can't quite remember where it is, but the church, the cathedral itself doesn't particularly hold an amazing energy. In some respects it's quite cold, but when you walk into those rooms, those small rooms, and sometimes they're a small little annex, and sometimes they're just kind of a room that's set aside in part of the church, old cathedral. But when you go in, I can't actually put it into words, but you can tangibly feel the presence of the Spirit in there. And it can only be, I think, because it's a place where people go to pray, and not where you have the services, so not where you go and you listen to the vicar or the deacon or the archbishop or whatever do their various bits and pieces. That's, for me, that's entirely different. But a quiet place where people go and actually sit themselves and say their prayer, give their thanks, give their grace to whatever they see as a great spirit. There's a really beautiful, poignant, tangible energy about that, and sometimes it just touches the spirit, doesn't it? I've just been cutting the hedge, and I've been pondering that question that I asked about mowing the grass, about why I like to mow the outside first. And I've come to the conclusion that it's because I like to know what structure I'm working within. If I don't have a structure or a framework to work within, then how do I know what I'm aiming for? And if I don't know what I'm aiming for, how do I know what goals to set and what actions to take? And that's the conclusion I've come to. And that sense that if you know the structure you're working within, the framework that you're working within, when you feel that, when you complete that, when you reach that, then you're able to expand beyond it. So they're my thoughts, but if you think it's something else, then answers on a postcard, please.